The popular series Drive to Survive has blessed Netflix with 4 seasons, and we're sure you've either seen it or at least heard about it. Now, the show's pretty great and managed to get more people to appreciate the sport and embrace the fandom of Formula One. But how real is it? It turns out the Mercedes boss slammed the F1 Netflix series for turning the sport into a reality show. First off, why does Toto Wolff hate it so much? The Mercedes boss has shot at Netflix in the very popular Drive to Survive series that has boosted the sport into a wider market. In fact, the series takes viewers behind the scenes and deep inside the teams and even helps drive the popularity of the Formula One world. But is that the case? Because the actual people in the F1 world don't seem to appreciate the show, exaggerating the rivalries and feuds between teams and drivers. And it's safe to say it's gotten a lot of backlash from many critics despite its popularity. In fact, Toto Wolff isn't a fan either and says the series is turning the sport into some kind of reality show. Or more like the Kardashians. There's just so much unnecessary drama and hype to the show that simply doesn't really exist all that much in the real F1 world. The Kardashians are known for staging drama and exaggerating family issues, which is exactly what Wolff thinks the F1 series is trying to replicate. In fact, he said that F1 is really about life and death because it's got athletes and high-performance machines, but the series is really adding a dash of keeping up with the Kardashians. Having said that, why didn't Wolff speak up earlier? The show launched in March 2019, and while there's been criticism along the way, Wolff decided to speak up now when Netflix is on its way to film the 5th series of the show. Well, it's maybe because this time the most recent season actually shifted the spotlight on a feud between Wolff and Red Bull boss Christian Horner. Now, that can't be good. Despite being interviewed for the series, he didn't appreciate having so many eyes on him. In fact, recalling his first exposure to Drive to Survive, Wolff told Irish Independent that he started off with episode 1, episode 2, and that's it. He absolutely hates it. He never really wanted to have the camera at his face, and it was more of a gradual thing. And suddenly, you're hit with the realization that it's become so big everywhere with new audiences, especially younger audiences. In fact, Wolff is definitely on board with other critics who've given the F1 series enough backlash for bending the truth, and that's definitely an opinion shared by a bunch of F1 purists around the world. And you tend to understand when Wolff says you'd hate to see yourself in there, because they create a spin to the original narrative, add a bunch of scenes that never happened, and it's all for entertainment. An insider would tell you how differently they portray the actual situation, but it's because they're really just creating a new dimension of entertainment. And criticism aside, the F1 series definitely created a bigger fandom. Having said that, with all the drama aside, Wolff definitely appreciates Netflix for helping grow the Formula One market, especially in the United States, because in a way, he says that they've never reached out to or even excited American audiences. And that makes sense because Formula One is really a niche sport. It's a high-tech, highly academic, and high-income demographic. So while they were still planning to tap an audience in bigger cities like New York, they never really got there. With the combination of Netflix, lockdown, and binging, the F1 series got all the hype it needed. All of a sudden, there was great momentum in America that no one really expected. In fact, the sport really grew in popularity, and fans are now more caught up with the business side of F1 than ever. In fact, the sport really grew in popularity, and fans are now more caught up with the business side of F1 than ever. And it's all thanks to the series. And it's definitely paved the road into the United States, so much so that this year, there's going to be more than just one Grand Prix in the country. With that said, that show's coming back with its 5th season on August 26th. That will feature the Belgian Grand Prix. And whether F1 drivers participate in the Netflix series or not, they're still gonna have to face whatever the entertainment industry is going to throw at them with the new seasons of the show. Moving on, he isn't the only one shooting criticism at the F1 Netflix series. The core issue is that Drive to Survive pretty much manipulates the footage of real races and driver interactions, and honestly makes it seem like there's more drama between drivers and teams than there really is, and that allows the show to create more story arcs for particular drivers. In fact, it definitely makes for excellent TV and skyrockets the popularity of Formula One, but it's definitely unfair to the drivers, who are painted as antagonists simply because of the storylines that the Netflix cameras decide to follow. Obviously, Netflix is gonna love the controversy the show brings because it makes for a better show, but F1 notices how it reflects poorly on drivers and basically squanders the PR that the show's supposed to bring. So there's just a weird push and pull between the show doing the sport and the people actually making the show, where it seems like it's in everybody's best interest to manipulate the actual footage simply. And there's a lot of rivalry, fake stuff, and drama that a lot of F1 critics pointed out multiple multiple times, but that's also important for good TV, isn't it? A lot of fans believe the show is actually at its best when it avoids the fake drama and focuses on the mid-tier teams and drivers that don't get the attention of legends like Verstappen or Schumacher. But while there's a way to do that while making everyone happy, Netflix and F1 definitely have a lot to figure out. With that said, Max Verstappen boycotts the latest season of the show. Now, Verstappen is definitely sort of built up as a villain early in the show, making it look like he and the very obvious Drive to Survive hero, Daniel Ricciardo, hate each other to the guts. The 24-year-old F1 driver has officially denounced the documentary series by openly calling it fake because of the manufactured drama and whatnot. Verstappen agrees with the need to boost popularity in America, but at what cost? As an F1 driver, he doesn't really like being part of the show and the fake rivalries that don't exist. At least, that's what he says. Having said that, the young talent decided not to be a part of it, and with that, he called off all interviews because they won't have anything to show. In fact, he added that he isn't really a dramatic show kind of person and just wants the world to see the facts and real things that actually happened. And to top it off, he even added that Netflix is probably going to show him and Lewis Hamilton as rivals, hinting at the tensions between the two, both on and off the track, right in the middle of their 2021 title fight. In fact, adding to the exaggeration of the Netflix series, he says the main issue is that they'll position the F1 drivers in the way they want, and no matter what they actually say, the show is going to try and make them look reckless to fit the narrative. Finally, Schumacher isn't a fan of the show either. Mick Schumacher also jumped in to acknowledge the importance of staying true to real events. And yes, it's brought new fans to the sport, but they're all coming with a twisted and more dramatic perspective of Formula One. And as the show progresses, he says that they need to make more sense, and maybe a chronological order would probably make much more sense. In fact, he thinks that the documentary series needs to stop focusing on creating dramatic headlines and focus on facts instead. Now, we know that Formula One is largely about its drivers and their exceptional talent behind the wheel of the most extreme automobile. It's an unwritten rule of the sport that one must respect the other drivers on track, even more so for safety reasons because they're driving at over 300 miles an hour. The exaggerated and in many cases fake rivalries create more tension between the F1 drivers. Many of them say that the series needs to focus on the interesting part of Formula One, which is whatever goes through their head when they're chasing another one down in a race or somehow squeezing out every millisecond of lap time for their car in qualifying. The producers need to understand that F1 can't be portrayed in the same old tried and tested formula of dramatic TV shows. Instead, it needs to respect the sport that's home to great talent and personalities, with cars that drive at ridiculous speeds. That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on the popular F1 Netflix series? Do you think it's getting the criticism it deserves? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.